Miss this and you'll regret buying at the Robertson Opus. Hi there, my name is Ryan and today I'll be doing a deep dive into this Robertson Opus. So why this analysis is so important is because, as you all know, the rest of the upcoming launches are predominantly in the central area. So Opus is the first launch that will be up and coming. So we will really need to know whether can we actually enter or wait for the next plot. In this video, I'll be talking about the 1 and 2 bedroom, where it's the most crucial for investor. While the 3 and 4 bedroom, I will do it in the next video, so stay tuned. So of course, my number is over here. In any case, if you have any questions, you can definitely reach out to me via this number and I'll do my best to answer you. Alright, without further ado, let's start. So for Robertson Opus, right, it is developed by this Riverside Property Private Limited, but in short, it is actually developed by Fraser Property. The address itself is 11 Unity Street. District-wise is very prime District 9. Over here in Opus, there is a total of 26 commercial units with 348 residential units. So commercial units, I wouldn't touch too much on that, more on the residential units itself. So for Opus, right, the tenure is actually 999 years and the expected TOP will be somewhere in Q4 2028. Next, I want to highlight a little bit about this location. For me, I used to actually hang out over here when I was in my teenage years. So this location over here, right, I'm sure is very familiar to a lot of the Singaporeans, whereby, you know, over here you have very famous izakaya, Japanese eatery, and also if you want to chill out for beers, I think this is quite a famous place. If not, when there is Premier League screening, there are a lot of people who gather here to take a look at soccer matches. So for Opus, right, it is the previous Robertson Walk. So this is the latest news that Fraser Property decided to redevelop this Robertson Walk into Opus. I would say they are not going to do a lot of changes, but rather what I can see is that they are trying to make it into a more modern mixed development. If you are there, right, you can see that the facade, everything is getting old and there are a lot of wear and tear. So I can see that what they are trying to do is to rejuvenate the entire development. So as you can see, this is actually the unit mix. Over here there is studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom and even the 4 bedroom. You can see in this unit mix, right, the highest percentage will actually be the 2 bedroom, which I think a lot of investors or even buyers, they are very concerned is that today, if the 2 bedroom, right, there are a higher amount, will there be an oversupply in future or not? This one we'll take a look at it later part. For this site plan, I would like to touch on a bit on where the unit actually faces. So over here, the units are actually facing the UE Square. And over here, it is actually facing the shop houses. Followed by, here we are facing the Robertson Walk. And lastly, we have units that is facing the pool. I would say for Block 7 and Block 13, the setback distance is a very good 57 meters. While over here for Block 11 to 15, the setback is about 21 meters. The main facility, right, will be concentrated on level 2 as well as the roof terrace. Okay, so for Opus itself, the developer have actually classified all the unit types into 3 categories. So first, the first collection we have is the Premier Collection. The second one will be the Luxury Collection, and third is our Legacy Collection. So I'll touch on a little bit about each of the categories and how it will affect you in terms of buying this layout, what is the type of quality that you'll get. So for Premier, right, you will actually get large format tiles. So for these large format tiles, I would say the good thing is that for large format tiles, right, you know, in between the tiles, you won't see those lines. So it makes it very seamless, which is very modern and cozy lah. The not so good part is because the color that they are giving, right, is going towards the white color. So I would say it is very easy for you to stain on the tiles. Next will be the Luxury Collection. So for this Luxury Collection, they will be giving stone look-alike large format tiles. So it's going to be like the marble kind of finishes, but it is still considered as a tiles. And I would say most of the 2 and 3 bedrooms will actually get this. And last will be the Legacy Collection. So Legacy Collection, right, what you will be getting is the marble flooring. And I can see why developer actually input in marble for this is because over here in District 9, I would say most buyers, when it comes to buying a property, they are actually looking for luxury finishes. Today, if I'm a luxury buyer, definitely I will have the money to spend. And if I want to buy a property, I want to buy it to be as grand and as cozy as possible. So for the luxury collection, developer actually put in marble flooring because it gives a very grand and luxury feeling. Okay, without further ado, right now I will deep dive into the one bedroom. So a lot of people are thinking, is it really safe to get a one bedroom 999 or even a freehold for investment, especially when people are always thinking to leave behind a legacy for their family? I've done up this. For property prices to hold or even go up, the fundamental is still very dependent on demand and supply. While it's very difficult to predict the demand, we can however predict the supply based on two factors. First is the land sales, and second will be the existing condo that has a 999 freehold of one bedroom in River Valley. So you can see over here I've done the chart. So you can see that I've actually deep dived into the one bedroom supply in River Valley freehold property. So first we have 8 St. Thomas, Aspen Heights, Espada, Martin Place, Avinia, Metz, and Yong Ang Park. You can see that if I were to add up all the one bedder, it will give me 441 units of freehold one bedroom in River Valley. I wouldn't take Yong An Park into consideration because the one bedroom over there is 1023 square feet, which is not very relevant in today's context. In today's one bedroom sizes, we are actually looking around 400 to even 500 square feet. So I'll exclude Yong An Park out. So you can see that about 20% of the units over here in River Valley are actually one bedroom, which in my opinion is considered high. But another of my greatest concern is the upcoming plots that will be launching together in River Valley, especially most of it are the harmonized layout, making the one bedroom extremely affordable for people to come in. And I heard there's one plot, the one bedroom may start from 2,008 per square foot, meaning the one bedroom may start from 1.2 million. So the key to invest in a one bedroom is the entry price, as that will directly impact your sellability when you want to transfer the property to the next investor. So does it mean that if today we are in a high supply area, it means that the product is not safe? Actually not true. So I'm using this example in the Marina area. You can see that the total number of one bedroom just in Marina is 1,163 units. So that actually adds up to about 39% of the one bedroom in Marina. But of course, when the demand is able to absorb the supply, the product is still a very safe product. Why do I say so? So you can see that in Marina area, when tenant is able to pay for a very high rental for the landlord is actually achieving a very high rental yield, which makes it very safe. And this is actually leasehold property. In the River Valley area where a lot of condos are freehold, I would say generally the freehold condo will command a higher selling price as compared to the leasehold, and that will actually equates to a lower yield. You can see that for Orchard area, I just use 8 St. Thomas, Espada and Avinia as an example, the rental yield that the landlord is collecting is actually 3 to 3.5%. So when the rental yield is not fantastic, it actually have a chain down effect. When the yield is not fantastic, investor won't be keen, and when investors won't be keen, the pool of amount of buyers that you want to sell to next time is smaller. So it becomes really the freehold property is really like you can really hold it forever. Okay, so now let's analyze the layout. So over here we have actually two options for the small units. First will be the suite, which is a studio, and also the one bedroom. So for suite, there is S1 and S1A. The size is actually the same at 431 square feet. Actually, there's not much different except that you can see over here there is this small wall protruding out, which actually affects the facade a little. Other than that, it has no difference. Next, I want to touch on the differences between the studio as well as the one bedroom. So in terms of size, the studio is actually 63 square feet smaller than the one bedroom. So for prime location like this, every square feet actually counts because the PSF is very high. For rental wise, you won't see too much of a difference between the suite and the one bedroom. So for the top choice in the small units for Opus, my top choice will actually be the suite first, followed by the one bedroom. Why? Let me explain. Because we are talking about 63 square feet difference. If I were to use a 3,200 per square foot to do a simple calculation, that actually means between the suites and the 1 bedroom, it is 204,000 difference. In terms of rental wise, like I mentioned earlier, we don't see too big of a difference, but this 204 is a huge premium that you have to pay in terms of the entry price between the suites and 1 bedroom, which I feel that it will definitely affect your rental yield should you want to sell to the next buyer in future. Of course, you are able to consider the 1 bedroom if the quantum is just 50k apart. If it's really 50k apart, why you can consider is because you get a good setback distance for the 1 bedroom and it will be pool facing. So just take note that in terms of rental wise, it won't be too big of a difference between the 1 bed and the suite. Okay, so now let's talk about the 2 bedroom in Opus. I just want to remind the audience here there are a number of layouts of 2 bedroom in Opus. In terms of the 2 bedroom, we have a total of B1 all the way to B7S. So for the 2 bedroom, we have a few facing. First of all, this actually facing UE Square, and then we have here that is facing the Robertson house, here which is facing the shop houses, and lastly this 2 plus study which have a very long setback distance, which is also facing the pool. And we also have the B4 layout, which is facing another pool, just that the setback is shorter at 21 meters. So for the 2 bedroom, the most question that I receive on the ground is which layout to choose and can I actually exit easily and safely. So for a start, I would want to share with the audience here the least preferred layout in my opinion and why you shouldn't choose that. The least preferred one coming in number 5, which is my last choice, is actually the B5 layout, because you can see that over here, right, you have a very long corridor, and not only that, you will be getting a open concept kitchen, and even the toilet doesn't come with any window. So why window is so important is because when you don't have window, right, usually the toilets, when I see in the resale market, right, is very prone to molding. So even the B3 layout, I would say that it's not very good, because when you enter, right, straight away you see the kitchen. In feng shui, this is not really very preferred. Next, you can see also the toilet doesn't come with any window for the common toilet. So my number 4th choice for the 2 bedroom is actually the B6 layout. The B6 layout is an improved version of the B5 layout. So what do I mean by that? You can see that when you come in, although you will still get the long corridor, but over here you will see there is a glass, which makes the corridor brighter. And although you still get the open concept kitchen, but over here in the common toilet, right, you will actually have window, which makes the toilet not so easy to mold. That's why you can see that there's some enhancement in the B6 layout, which I feel is definitely better than the B5 layout. So my number 3 for the 2 bedroom is the B7S 2 plus study and the B4 layout, but I will personally prefer the 2 plus study more. Why? It's because it actually have a study area, which is more versatile in today's market, because it can actually act as a home storage or even a study area, which caters to a wider audience. So recently, I actually have a buyer who have viewed the 2 bedroom, 2 bed 2 bath and a 2 plus study in Park Esta, and they have decided to go for a 2 plus study, which is 200k more expensive than a 2 bed 2 bath. So out of curiosity, I actually checked in with her, hey, what made you actually buy this 2 plus study? And she mentioned that as a compact family, there is a need for storages. So I do see why it's so important to have this study area. So when I asked her, in that case, why didn't you consider a 3 bedroom? Because the 3 bedroom, right, will need to add in another 250k. Over here, we can see that the gap for the 2 plus study and the 3 bedroom may be very big, which makes it very attractive for the buyers to look at the 2 plus study. And also the 2 plus study, right, actually comes with an enclosed kitchen. And this is actually what we call the dumbbell layout. So for the dumbbell layout, right, one good thing is that you save a lot of space on the corridor. But the not so good part is that when you enter into this unit itself and when you are standing here, you can actually see all the rooms, which makes it a little bit less privacy. Next will be the B4 layout, which I also like. So B4 layout, when you enter, you actually get a very nice enclosed kitchen. One good thing is that you realize that for this enclosed kitchen, you actually get this glass panel, which makes the kitchen very bright. The not so good part is that you will not get the windows in the toilet, which makes it a little bit more prone to moldiness. And another thing is that you realize that for this B4 layout, the kitchen is longer as compared to the 2 plus study. When you have a bigger kitchen, definitely I think it's a bonus to have. So for my second choice in the 2 bedroom is actually the B2 layout. Although it is 689 square feet, but you can see it actually comes with a enclosed kitchen. And even the enclosed kitchen, it actually comes with a glass panel which makes the kitchen area very bright. And second thing is that over here you will also be getting the dumbbell layout, which I mentioned earlier. You actually save a lot on the corridor space. So what do I mean by save a lot? You can see that between 689 and 721, right, there is 32 square feet difference. 32 square feet difference can easily be cheaper by 104k if you were to use a PSF of 3002 per square foot to do a simple calculation. So this potentially can be your savings, and that's why B2 is my second choice preferred. The most desirable layout for the 2-bedroom is the B1 layout. Okay, why this is so enticing? Number one, you will get a very high ceiling for this unit at 3.225 meter. Next, for the kitchen, right, you realize that you will also get this glass panel, plus you will get a window in this kitchen area, which makes the kitchen extremely bright in this case. And next, all toilet will have windows over here, which makes the toilet also very bright as well as more resilient to the mold. Lastly, this layout, what I really like is that there is a lot of privacy when you walk in. You won't see all your bedrooms as the bedrooms are tucked into one corner. Okay, so how to determine whether to choose the B1 or B2 layout? For example, if the B1 layout is 3003 per square foot, and if the B2 layout is 3250 per square foot, then in that case, my choice will still be the B1 layout. Or even if the per square foot is the same, go for the B1 layout first. But if there is a price difference of 100 or even 150 per square foot difference between the B1 and B2, right, then in that case, go for the B2 layout. So that's my suggestion. So in terms of the exit strategy, at this time of filming, you can see that the 999 and freehold supply in River Valley is not a lot. Okay, I've done a search and right now there's only 27 listings in the market. And out of these 27 listings, right, when I did a search for Aspen Heights, there are already 6 properties, which may be duplicated, I wouldn't know. It also means that potentially to buy a 2-bedroom freehold over here, right, you can only choose between 4 to 5 projects, which are quite limited. So right now, at this point of time, I would say the exit is actually quite easy. But in future, if there are more and more people selling, right, it actually may affect you. So the way to know whether is it easy to sell or not, one way to know is to on and off check on the listing portal how many units of the 999 or even the freehold 2-bedroom is actually selling right now. So with that, I've come to the end of my analysis for the 1 and 2-bedroom for Opus and Robertson. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'll see you in the next video.